Welcome back to Carvd Podcast, where our positive news articles come to life. I'm your host, Nyesha Stone, and I'm also the founder of Carvd, your weekly source of positive news. So, to our loyal listeners, if you were trying to listen to an episode last week, we did miss our very first week, but life goes on, so we back on another Tuesday, interviewing another great guest. And I'm really excited to have this guest on because the topic is mentorship. And so, our next guest is all about being a mentor and promoting mentorship. And as I was just telling him, I didn't know what that meant when I first met him. So I'm really excited to tell him about my experience and just like overall, and for you all to hear about what he does. So let me bring on LaNelle Ramey of executive. He is the executive director of Mentor Greater Milwaukee. I remember meeting him in 2017. But how you doing, LaNelle?
I'm well. Thank you for reaching out. Thanks for having me. I am excited to be on with you today. And congratulations to all your success. I've been watching you blow up since 2017 as well. So pleasure to be here.
Oh no, thank you. I've been seeing you too. Like you a huge name in the city. Like your name holds a lot of weight. So thank you for being here. So
Thank
one of
you.
the first things I want to bring up is, can you just talk about the organization Mentor Greater Milwaukee and just overall like why you took this position as executive director?
Sure. So Mentor Greater Milwaukee, in layman's terms, I like to explain it to people. We're simply a navigator and a conduit of mentorship. We make sure that programs who want to do and provide mentoring have the right supports, right? We believe if you're going to do this thing called mentoring, that you're prepared to work toward our young people at a high level. So we provide training, professional development, one-on-one technical assistance, and then we're an advocate. So our job is really to go out and preach the gospel, so to speak, on why mentorship is so important. So we do a lot of speaking engagement, a lot of panels around just people getting involved in mentoring. And then the third thing is recruitment. How do we help programs get mentors? Like there's so many wait lists for young people who are waiting in programs to have a mentor. Data talks about 1 in 3 young people are without a mentor. And let me say that differently. I like to say it differently. 1 in 3 young people are without a positive mentor, because there's a lot of people on this block and that don't want to be a positive mentor, but just steering our young people away. So that's what Mentor Greater Milwaukee does. Really, we're just an organization that wants to make sure that mentorship is happening at a high level, and that that people are prepared to serve our young people in the capacity of a mentor.
That's interesting that you put the word positive in front of mentor because you literally just opened up my mind. Because when I hear the word mentor, I always thought of great things, right? But anybody could be a mentor, so and in the wrong ways. So can you just describe basically, like you said, like to like if you was talking to my nephew who's 7, like what is a mentor, and then can you describe the type of mentor that you want our youth to have?
Absolutely. So when you think about a mentor in a young person's life, we really like to say it's someone who's willing to be a guide on the side, right? And really helping a young person navigate life. We say there's really 3 simple things that someone needs to have and to be a mentor. One, they have to be open and vulnerable as an adult, which means you have to be ready to really express yourself in a way that we traditionally don't do with young people. I grew up in an era where my daddy and my mom used to say a young person should be seen and not heard. But now we're in an era where we got to give young people a voice. So one of the things that a mentor has to do is be open and vulnerable. Because when you're open and vulnerable, the second thing that you're willing to do is share your story. And too many times, people want to hear about LaNelle in the now, not understanding what LaNelle looked back in the day, like when he was struggling to understand his own identity, right? And trying to figure out what he wanted to be and what he wanted to do and how he's going to get there. So you have to be able to be willing to share your story. And then the third thing, which is super important, is a commitment to cultural competency. And what I mean by that is just not about race, right? This is also about neighborhoods we grow up in, how we were raised in our household, our social economic status, male, female, like understanding cultural competency is critical to supporting to a young person. So when you think about your 7-year-old nephew, someone has to come in willing to look at that 7-year-old and not be like, all right, young man, you're going to do this, and this. No, like, I got to figure out who he is. What do you like to do? Encourage him to do that. Give him words of affirmation. So as he's growing up and getting older, he's starting to believe in himself more. Because a lot of times our young people don't hear, quote unquote, that. And we want to make sure that mentors are prepared to really be supportive of young people in that positive way in those 3 things that I just mentioned.
The other day, my nephew, he was like, always make sure I always tell him, I'm like, you're really intelligent. And we all like kind of been saying it. He was like, why does everyone tell me that?
Yeah.
I'm like, because you are.
Right. Right. Words of affirmation are powerful. And a lot of kids just don't hear it often enough. And so they struggle. That's why a lot of kids don't think they can go to college because so many times they're told, well, maybe you should think about this, or their grades show, or they struggle in school not knowing, hey, I can get a 2.0 and still say go to MATC and still go to a 4-year college. Like, but because of words sometimes, or that guide on the side, sometimes our kids get lost because of those words. So
I love it. Like you're teaching me, you've been teaching me a lot since I met you. We met at when you were at the Black and Latino Male Achievement for
yeah.
NPS, and I remember I literally just looked it up. So the article I did on you came out October 14th, 2017 for the Milwaukee
Wow.
Courier, and I
Yes.
started Carvd Stone January 21st, 2017. So I had just started Carvd Stone, and I just started like writing for the Milwaukee Courier, and then like you were kind of like one of the first stories and one of the first people like in the business world that kind of like saw my light. And I remember you inviting me out to lunch. I was too nervous to let you buy me anything. I'm like, I don't know how to.
Gotta
um,
let us pour into you. But no, I remember that. I remember that because the other thing I remember is I think you went to that little video high school. Dang, what's the name of that little school you went
don't
to?
you do us like that. And I
Was
was just
that
talking to your son about this. Don't you do
no,
the generals go Rufus King.
go Riverside, East Side, Tiger till I die. You already know. Yes, yes, yes. Exciting though. But I remember that time, and I knew you were going to do big things, and you're not done yet. So you're far from being done.
Thank you. So I actually want to stay on that topic because when I met you, I remember interviewing you about like mentorship. And at
Mhm.
that time, I think, well, I was like 20. So now I'm 26, going on 27. And I didn't know I heard the word mentor and I heard it a lot. And I'm like, that's a person that's supposed to, somebody you're supposed to confine in, something like that.
Mhm.
And until I think it was 2 years later, that's when I finally got my first mentor. And it changed my whole life. So I never really got to talk about it. So Q Mean from Young Enterprise
Yeah.
Society, he became my mentor, and I basically like forced him to be my mentor because I remember I was working for the Milwaukee Courier, and I kind of want to go full time with Carvd Stone, and I was like, I just need something that's gonna fund me or just give me something for me to go full time. So I heard of the blueprint from my older cousin who lives in Georgia. I didn't know what the heck a accelerator was. I applied for it, didn't get in, and Q was like, I reached out to Q and I'm like, can you teach me why I didn't get in? I don't know what these terms mean. I don't know what a pitch deck is. And so I don't know, for a very long time in 2019 into 2020, he let me come into his office and multiple times at the week when we would spend hours, he would teach me what do my numbers mean with my business? And before we got to that point, creating a business model. So
Mhm.
to the point where he was like, you have a hobby, and so you need to start making money. So I didn't even know what the term business model was. And so
Right.
like he was like, and he taught me like what a pitch deck was, business model, and I still really didn't understand these terms, but he still spent time with me. He would make me write on a big whiteboard, and I used to be so nervous, like writing in front of him, and he'd be like, you got to learn these numbers, and I'm like, I don't know what you mean by numbers. Like, what are you talking about? And I was learning this stuff, and he was like, you know what? I'm gonna let you into this program. You're gonna be the underdog, but I'm gonna let you into this program. And so I got into the program, and then I met a teacher named Demetria, who
Okay.
I just met with not too long ago. But long story short, though, he spent so much time with me, and like literally for like a year or two, he really taught me like how to become a businesswoman because I was trained in journalism, and so he taught me, how to go up to people, how to talk to people, how to present yourself, certain stuff like that. And he helped me personal wise too. I was going through a lot of stuff. And so sometimes I'm like, can I please just come into your office? Like I won't say nothing. He's like, just come on. And like
Right.
we'll work together silently. And that literally like changed my life. And then the pandemic hit. And so like our relationship kind of fell off. And then recently within the last year, I met a woman named Latanya from Northwestern Mutual. And
Okay.
I just literally left her house yesterday. She let me spend it at her house. She's in Chicago, and she is my first Black woman mentor. So
Okay.
he was my first mentor. He's a Black man, but to have a woman and she's Black, oh my
Okay.
God, it has
Yes. Yes.
changed my life.
I
Like she
love it.
has been able to like get to me in other ways that Q could not because he's a
Mhm.
man. She's been able to like, hey, sometimes you're a little bit too aggressive. Sometimes you need to be open to criticism. Like, and on top of that, she helped me on the business side. This is how you close a deal. And ever since then, I've been closing deals. Like she
Right.
sat down and taught me tools and taking the time and she listened
That's
to me.
beautiful.
And like, man, I did not understand what mentor mean. And so now with Carvd Stone, we're kind of changing like what we're doing. So instead of just giving funding to specifically just any kind of entrepreneur. I really want to stay on our mission of supporting Black and Brown journalists, right? So how do I start become a leader? How do I become a mentor? And because I know a lot of knowledge for me to be 26, and I've done a lot and experienced a lot, and there are a lot of people right under me or like been asking me like, how did you do what you do? I don't know how to explain it. I never felt like I was ready, but the way they've impacted me, I'm like, I think I'm ready, but I don't know.
Right, right, right.
But to say all that to say, do you remember your first mentor and like how did that impact you, and what type of mentor do you want to be?
Absolutely. So my first, I think, true invested mentor was one of my freshman year homeroom teacher, Thomas Wild. Mr. Wild, it was so interesting because it was his first year at Riverside, and I was a freshman. And like I said, I even though I wasn't a bad kid, but I would challenge you, right? Like, and me and my crew challenged Mr. Wild. But what was special about Mr. Wild is what he saw in me, but then how he communicated it, right? And what I mean by that is it was in subtle ways. And I tell people this all the time because I think it's important. Like, I had two wonderful parents who were very engaged, loving, spoke words of affirmation. My mother was a hugger, kisser, lover. You're going to be great. You're going to be this. But Mr. Wow almost reaffirmed things I didn't think when my parents would say things I didn't believe almost, right? Like, you're this, you're that. And I'd be like, I'm not all that. Like, right. And he would do that. So freshman year through senior year, we just had this like connection to the point where I tell people my senior year, it was January 1990. So yeah, right.
Before
And
I was born.
I don't have to say it out loud. No, you don't. But I remember him coming up to me and going, "So what school are we going to next year? College." And at the time, I hadn't applied anywhere. And I'm just sitting there. And then back in the day, you did your college applications by hand. So I remember him standing up over me. I was at a desk and he dropped a folder and he said, "You're going to Morehouse." And it was the Morehouse college application. It was the only college application I did. And it was the only college I got into at the time. And I didn't realize until later how dedicated he was because of what he saw in me. He didn't try to control me. He didn't try to make me think of do something I didn't want to do. He just was on the side, knowing where I needed the right supports. And that's the key to a mentor is understanding the person you with and just helping them navigate where they want to go. My job isn't to say, I'm gonna make sure you do X. No, my job is to say, what do you want to do? Okay, how do I help you do that? And that's the thing that's critical, I think, to mentorship. So even though I went to school, thought I was going to be a business major, then I thought I was going to be a lawyer, then I thought I was going to be an FBI agent. I realized, dude, my heart was with kind of social service, right? Being a servant leader. And so I think I realized back in the day, I think one of my first jobs in college is I was with the YMCA and I ran a summer program for like 8 weeks and had like 10 students. So I'm like 20, got these 10 kids I'm working with. I don't know what I'm doing. At the time, I didn't think I liked working with kids like that at all. But then it clicked. And so for me, ever since then, and that was 93-ish, ever since then, I've kind of like found my niche. And I never thought I would be here per se, but that Mr. Wild was one of the most important pieces of my puzzle when as a young person in high school needing that support.
I love that because I can totally agree. Like I'm like living in it right now, still like getting the mentorship and still like really becoming who I am because I still don't know fully who I am and even becoming aware of that. So like just recently I had to like move back home from like living in Georgia and so like that really like hurt me like personal wise and then I never like admitted like all the things I was going through like over the years. I just kind of held them in because I started Carvd when I was 20
Mhm.
and nobody knows how hard it's been. Like, and like to get a lot of money, like at one point, like, I made like 80,000 one year, and we didn't have nothing to show for it because I never knew cash flow. I didn't have management, and I was so embarrassed to like admit those type of things. And then like, but you still got to keep going. I'm still doing like interviews every day, still doing these meetings and accelerator program. Like literally, look all good, but like on the back end, I was like dying inside. And so like through this mentorship, like with Q and Latanya, it took until now until Latanya was like, and from my granny, like, I think you need to start going to therapy. And so I reached out to some people and I'm eventually going to start going to therapy. So like it took mentorship for me to even get to that point to become self-aware of like the anger that I've like been facing and just being okay with that and being like, all right, you can find tools to like help with that. But I was hiding like so much stuff in over my 20s, not knowing it was like a lot of childhood trauma that I
Mhm.
never got over. But now I realize now it's coming back. And so like my mentors, they have really helped me just to realize more of who I am. And that has been like so scary to admit because like you want to admit that you're like perfect.
Right,
And
right, right.
especially with social media, they make it seem like you're supposed to have everything. Like I've lost friends
Everything.
like over the last few
Mhm.
years, and like we don't talk about none of that. It's just especially because I do positive news, I have been like so scared to like show the other side. Because like, what if I lose followers? What is this? But if I'm not okay, my company can't be okay. And so, how do you, as a mentor, how do you, when your mentee is going through things, how do you decide how to guide them, especially when it's like some really rough stuff? Like how do you put, how do you handle those type of things?
Well, it goes back to that point one of being what it means to be a mentor, being open and vulnerable, right? Like we all go through things, right? Like, and they're not always mirror or equal things, but you have to remember what it felt like when you were going through what you were going through, whatever that looked like as a mentor. So when you're a person you're mentoring is navigating these issues, you have to be transparent enough to say, hey, I'm noticing this, or I saw this, or you should do this. One of the things I try to tell people is it's healthy to have multiple mentors in your life. Like it shouldn't be oh, just this one. Like there should be people in your life that you see once a year, twice a year. And they're there, they're a mentor because when they get with you, they always drop these nuggets. Then there's this regular mentor that you can call every day if you wanted to, and they can be there. But when you surround yourself with a circle of influence of different people and different mindsets as you're dealing with life stuff, you have these multiple people who have different perspectives that then help you get to look in the mirror and say, dang, dog, like you are this, like your imposter syndrome is on 1,000. Like you have to be, but sometimes the other individuals do that. Like I have peer mentors, I have professional mentors, I have personal mentors. Like I have dedicated myself to understanding the importance of kind of what we call the power five, like surrounding yourself with those individuals who are able to help you navigate your life stuff. And so mentors have to remember what it felt to go through their stuff. So then they're able to really help their person work through whatever it is they're going through. And be honest enough to know that I'm also not a know-it-all. Like my job as a mentor is not to be a know-it-all. My job is to be able to say, ooh, baby, I need to connect you with such and such, because that's out my wheelhouse, right? Like, and being able to be comfortable enough to do that, because then that's when you succeed, I think, in being a true advocate and supporter for the person you're mentoring.
Man, I'm loving the conversation. This got deep. Um, on a good note, so I just recently read, I think on Milwaukee Day, that you submitted a proposal or something, $250,000 for the Milwaukee County through the American Rescue Plan Act. Can you speak a little bit on that? Do you know when it's going to get approved, or if it has got approved, and just that overall, why you applied
Absolutely.
for it?
We were approved last Thursday.
Yeah,
So we're
yeah.
super excited. So, in context, we have been operating Mentor Greater Milwaukee with two staff now going on 5 years, right? And our capacity was getting really like narrow. Like I literally do like social media posts. I'm doing websites, I'm doing the grant writing, I'm doing the speaking engagement, I'm doing the training. So we, in order for us to, I think, reach more people around the advocacy of mentoring, this is what this grant is going to allow us to do. Add a staff person, hopefully, but then really get more visible. You said earlier that one of the things that we notice is adults have a fear of mentoring. Like they like, I don't know what that is, but now because in their mind they think mentorship is kind of sometimes boxed into like working with troubled kids only. We really want to advocate around the importance of mentoring for every kid, whether you're a 4.0 or a 0.40. Every young person needs a mentor. So part of this grant we're going to be using to do community-based kind of workshop slash trainings around what mentorship is, right? Not overwhelming, but enough to plant seeds where people can go,
I'm
hmm.
going.
Yeah, see, right? Like, and that's what we want. Like, come drop in, ask the questions, and then walk away like, you know what? I want to do that. Like, I want to do more. So we're gonna be, and then we get to kind of branch out to the entire county Like we want to be in the green fields and the West Allises. We want to spread out where every young person is, because we also believe true mentorship help also with kind of cultural issues or race issues we're seeing in our city, in our county, and bridging some of that gap is learning about each other. Mentors learn just as much from their kids as kids learn from their mentors. And when we think about understanding how young people think, then I can get better as an adult to help. So we're super excited about the dollars we were just voted on last Thursday. And part of that too is going to be helping schools create peer mentoring models. So in the next 2 years, we're hoping to create 20 peer mentoring programs in schools where young people are now supporting each other and helping with the dynamics of when young people are struggling, because sometimes young people got to talk to each other too, right? And we want to be able to have a mentoring kind of mindset amongst the young people as well.
We kind of had something like that at King called Link Crew Leaders.
Uh-huh.
Um, they help the freshmen like a little bit, like kind of
Yeah.
guide you like to your locker, stuff like that. I would love to see that program expand, because I remember having basically like the cheerleader captain, and I feel like the coolest person in the world. And I'm like, she had showed me to my locker, showed me how to
Right, right.
open it. And so those things are really, really important. I didn't even think about that. Like that's a
Because
really
so
that's
think about
great.
that though. Expand that thought process to what if it looks like, if let's say seniors are doing, let's say seniors do sophomores, juniors do freshmen. So the entire school is engaged. So as people are growing, if I'm a freshman and I had a mentor my first 2 years, someone I can really get with, connect with, like, dude, this is some bull for me. People don't realize that freshman year is where most kids drop out.
I gave up freshman year. I did. I was doing so well in school, but then honestly, I know my family got so used to me doing good in school that I just stopped getting recognition. So when I got to King, I think I got like a 3.0 the first semester, and I said, "Fuck it."
It was a wrap. Because you get in that mental drain, like to your point, like that was me. Like in through middle school, I was 3.7, 3.8. I think my freshman year, my first report card, to your point. Now I stayed in school, but my numbers started to drop because again, I didn't even know how I fit in high school anymore. Listen, when I came in freshman year, I was a 5 foot high dude, weigh 102 pounds, like could stuff me in a locker like that. So I didn't even know how I fit in identity from that standpoint. Luckily, I had a circle of young brothers who I still hang out with this day. I got the same circle of friends from 1986.
That's nuts.
That's nuts. Bananas. But think about, we've grown together, but we're different individuals. But we grew. And so for me, peer mentorship was that. I had one of my homeboys to this day, and I call them my brothers to this day. Then we're like we're blood to us. But I remember he said, "Fam, y'all saved my life." He said, I didn't realize it was peer mentoring then, but at one point in time in my life, I didn't even want it anymore. And I was just wanting to be reckless, but y'all kept me here. And not knowing like that's how he felt, but that's how I felt about them. Right. Like, and so I wanted to be intentional now where we're saying, I got you. I got you, bro. Like I'm your mentor. Like you're my mentor, fam. We the same age, but I got you. Like I want that to be just just a natural thing. Like one of the things I think I'm proud of that Mentor has done is we've heightened the use of the word mentorship. Like
Yes,
I
y'all
think
really have. Man, I ain't never heard that
so
word mentor so much
and I
in my
love it.
life.
And that's the geek that gets me so geek that I see people now, and I see even organizations saying it more, and they never really said it. But that's what we want. We want schools, organizations, companies to understanding that mentorship is a real tool that gets young people to feel supported, right? Like there's kids I used to do Boys and Girls Club. I was with the Boys and Girls Club for like 15 years, right? And I remember one time, true story, I went to Brownstone and I'm sitting there I'm eating and I look up and I heard somebody go, Mr. LaNelle. It was one of my first members of the club I opened back in '04.
Wow.
And she looked at me and she was like, she wanted to buy me a drink. She was like, no, no, no. You saved my life. And she's 32 now, maybe 33 or somewhere around there. That's the impact mentorship has when you don't even know you're doing it. Right. Like, and that's the way we want it to be, so natural that we want teachers to have these relationships that change people's life, even if you're not my student. That's how it's supposed to be. I walk the halls, you see me, let me holler at you about it. Like, that's how it's supposed to be. And that's where we're really pushing. So we're so excited to hear the word mentoring being used just regularly. And that's what drives us and pushes us.
Congratulations on the grant. I think that's a huge deal, and I really hope y'all get some more people because I know how it is. One person show up here, just until a few more months. We gonna get some people.
There you go.
We definitely gonna get some
I
people.
love it.
So you are a father and a husband.
Yes.
I want to shout out to your son Brandon. He has, for one, he has been so dope. He has been advocating for me when it comes to like quad and like getting me
Awesome.
with them. Shout out to him. But how have what it so when it comes to being a father, right? How how do you be a mentor but still be a father? Like
Mm.
have you incorporated that, or like how have you, yeah, have you done that?
Well, this, you know what I learned, and here's the deal. Like, you know, being a father, I've made a lot of mistakes. I just I've hit my head on the ceiling and everything, thinking I'm supposed to be a father this way. But what I learned with mentorship is allowing my kids to have someone else they can lean in on and talk to. Like when we were beefing and any of the kids, and I'm like, yo, Miss Keita, can you do this? Or such and such, can you do this? Dang, like, my kids were fortunate. They grew up in the club when I was with the club. So they had some mentors there. But one thing I learned as a parent is, again, how do I make sure my kids are surrounded with individuals who care and love them and can help guide them on their goals, so they don't always have to just hear it from me, right? So the fact that even you talked about Brandon, right? Like, Brandon went to school, he thought he was going to be in marketing and communications. Now here we go doing community stuff, right? Like, and he like, dude, I never knew, like, this is like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and then, you know, you think about, like, you know, all my other kids who, you know, like Jalen now, who was his second older brother, he's coaching as a mentor at Brown Deer Golf. You know what I'm saying? Like, and then their older brother Markel, he's the quiet, like, introverted, like, I don't mess with none of y'all. But the moment he gets a chance to pour into like his nephews, he transforms. And then Lene, the daughter, the younger one, now she's a school she works at a school as a counselor, as she wants to be a counselor. So when you think about, like, for me as a parent, they're doing the things that I have done, which makes me proud. But I think they're doing it more so because of other individuals, i.e., their mentors, who reconfirm like who they were, and then we're saying, and it would say stuff. Your dad loves you. Don't forget that. But this is who you are, and I think that's what's important as a parent is we have to learn to allow others to help our babies and not think we have to do it all. And I think that's where I learned. I think as a parent to do that. So
I recently learned that I went to the bus game and it was some other businesses there, and she was saying that a child needs at least one other person that is not their parent in their life, like one other person, and that would change their whole life. And she was kind of
absolutely.
talking about me and my nephew because I took him to his first bus game, and I've been raising them, you know, like with the help of like the, you know, helping provide, being like an extra parent.
Right.
And I always wondering like why I was like just a little bit different from my siblings, but it was because I had so many surrounding families. Like I would like literally go into other people's families and spend so much time with them, and then their parents would pour into me. And then I learned so much, like, oh, this is how some people live. This is how you greet people. Because some things I wasn't learning at home, so I went and learned them at other places, and I never realized how much that freaking shaped me. So I just want to say thank you for what you do because
Thank you.
I never thought of the word mentor until literally I think till I met you. And then that's when gave me the idea of like when I met Q and I'm like, he's doing mentor stuff. You're my
Mhm.
mentor now. And so then that's when he became my mentor. And so like just even knowing those terms and knowing that's a possibility and like you said, there's all different types of relationships. So just figuring
Yes.
out what works for you. But I think everyone should go out and get a mentor. So the last question I have for you is when people listen to this podcast, what do you want them to get from me?
One, that we can't keep talking about the problems of our city and not try to figure out how to be a part of the solution. I'm not saying mentorship is the end all be all, but there's something about when we as adults decide to step into a space of supporting kids that we can see a change and transformation, because it's also about changing the narrative and being engaged. So I want people to understand that mentoring works. Now, if you're scared, go to a school and say be a part of a book club and work with young people that way. You can be a mentor and still read books and do help with homework, like, and still talk about life stuff. So if people can just go out and find a way to be involved, even if they're 26, 24 and want to go to a middle school or a grade school. Young people need to see adults who care at all ages. And that's important. And then so they can go to MilwaukeeMentor.com to learn more about us. There's a drop down box that says get involved, and you can sign up to be a mentor. And what it'll do is it'll give you over 50 programs in the city of Milwaukee alone that people probably can connect to. And if they're still a little bit worried, when we start scheduling our workshops, they can come to one of our workshops and just hear more about what is a mentor, tell me more, and then we can help guide them a little bit more. So we got to do better. We got to do more. We got to support our young people. We got to stop throwing them all in one little box and saying, what's wrong with all these kids? It ain't, listen, ain't all these kids, man. It's a very small percentage that's doing all the stuff, but then there's a whole population that don't have the supports to help get them to the next level. And that's what we want to see, and that's what we want to do.
I love that. Thank you for definitely saying that. That it's just a few of them, and that don't forget about everybody though. Like
Right.
you cannot forget about our kids. I definitely felt forgotten about, and I wish I had a mentor a lot earlier in my life. But I'm glad I am where I am now. So again, thank you for what you do. Make sure y'all reach out, support them. If y'all want to invest in them, get us some money. Why not?
I
You know,
do I
get us
donate. There's
funding.
a donate button on the website.
Come
Definitely.
on now, donate to
Yeah.
them because I'm telling you, like living proof, like I really like Q and Latanya have really like changed me, and I shout out to them for real. Like I
Shout out to
appreciate
Q and
that.
Latanya. I love it. I love it.
So y'all listen to the Carvd podcast. Season 1 is slowly coming to an end. Last episode is going to be at the end of May. So make sure y'all stay tuned in. And always remember, in the end, everything will be carved in stone.